Okay, I'm jumping back in. So like in that previous video, I was talking about how there can be there doesn't have to be a lot of things, but a few very significant things that would make us be considered a professional at something. And I think that being appreciated as a professional is part of operating as a professional, but operating as a professional is part of being a professional. But what's more significant about being a professional and not being a professional is just simply the type of experiences that you can enjoy and provide for others as you're able to and appreciate it as operating as a professional is what I wanted to say. And so a lot of these are attended by specific markers of indications that are more so jumps. And I think a lot of significant things are jumps. So one of the most the best examples of a jump of some kind that represents a new skill, but also entry into a new lifestyle and new experiences to be had, and confidence with that and growth is when a child first rides a bike on two wheels. That's the best example. And for me, that had been a family friend that I referenced in different videos when I was very small. One of my first memories of childhood, and we were in front of his home, and he was I was very small and I enjoyed bikes, but he was wanting me to ride on two wheels. He's like, and he gave me my first push, and I was off on two wheels from that point. That was in the north where I was at. Then shortly after that, I relocated to the southwest, and I had many beautiful experiences on bicycles. Some of which I mentioned in a previous video in this series about a father of one of my friends who took us to do a lot of cool stuff in the outdoors where we grew up at, and in the city on bikes and on foot. But it was because of that first push that I got with my friend that got me. That friend was about like maybe at least like 3 and 4 years older than me. Like so I'd be about like I was maybe like 4 or 5, so he would have been like 7 or 8 or maybe even 9, and he was getting me on my two wheels. And then I moved away and I came back and I had more experiences with him in life where he was actually challenging me a lot. And I think that actually sometimes like your friends that really are all over you, they're always getting on your case about this and that, and they're always pressing you about this and that. They're actually giving you your strength and they're actually giving you some of your grit that's gonna allow you to be an adult. So like with him, he was always like giving me a hard time around. He was always like trying to like challenge me like around like socially. He was like socially challenging me to be more confident socially. And then when I became a man, I actually had some of the same skill and graces around socializing, and also around introducing myself and taking on challenges without being accompanied by anyone. Like when I became a professional, I hadn't been attended by anyone, and I went up to some of these different places and applied for things and underwent things with my own initiative. But I'm not bragging about that, but I'm saying that it's from experiences like I had in childhood with some of these friends that were pressing us, but we were always fighting. And sometimes I think that you fight people because you get tired of their face. That's actually why I'm doing this video without showing my face. There's other videos on here that show my face, but I think that sometimes we actually just get tired of each other's face. It's not what we're saying, but it's just our face. And that's actually another appreciable development as a professional that I wanted to reference, which is that part of being a professional, like you imagine like doing training to become a professional driver, and part of the difficulty is that you have to become familiar with the engine. So you become something of a quasi. That means like a somewhat mechanic by being a professional driver, because you understand something of mechanics of the vehicle and the engine, not like a mechanic would, but similar to a mechanic, so that you can at least communicate with a mechanic or recognize when there had been a problem. And that's difficult in becoming a professional driver, such as the pre-trip. Like anyone who's studied to become a professional driver is familiar with a pre-trip and has maybe received training for a pre-trip. But you get there and someone is they're saying, okay, so this is the alternator and this is the ABS line, and then you follow this here, and then you have your rotor there, and then you have your tie rod, and you have your nuts, your bolt pins. And as you hear that, you may be intimidated as you're looking at that and hearing that. And how do you stay focused on what you're being taught, because you don't want to lose focus, but it's easy to. One way to do that is to really appreciate the words, as though you were I said in another video, sometimes you can appreciate hearing if you were to imagine or just appreciate that there are limitations within your central visual awareness, even as clearly as it's being presented to you. But if you can listen to words and almost fixate on the words as though you had a fetish about words, like imagine you were like a real wordsmith and you were like, so maybe, so a lot of people would say that how do you know a poet is that poets are useless, useless as lovers and useless as life in life. Poets are useless, but all things, even a broken clock is right once in a while, and poets might actually be useful in anything, including something very technical, simply because poets may fixate on words. If you could imagine walking up to be trained for a CDO, like a pre-trip, as though you were Longfellow, you were Shakespeare. Now Shakespeare would probably be somewhere off, like getting too friendly with the with the female coworkers or the female management. But we can say Wordsworth or Longfellow, or some of your real romantic and tragic poets that can maybe be useless but yet brilliant. Imagine them being trained for a pre-trip and how they would fixate on the words and enjoy the words they're being showed and almost focus on the words as though they weren't being shown what they were being shown. They're just simply focusing on the words. Alternator, tie rod, and then tie rod's gonna go, and then you have your and then you have your this is your steering system and your steering column and your bolts and your cotter pins, and then you have your coolant, and then this is your alternator cap, and then this is going to be connected to the anti-lock brakes, and this is your oil, and this is your dipstick, and then you're going to pull this out, and you're going to make sure that you have at least that it's up to this level, and then as you walk around the bus, you're gonna push these are your different belts, and you're gonna want at least a 1/4 inch play in the belt so that it's not too tight, but it's also not too loose. Now, as I'm saying that might sound like word salad and go right past your head and be distracting. But if you were to have actually focused on each of those words I was saying, as though the word is more important than what I'm referring to, you're actually focusing on the word itself. That is going to keep your attention going, and you can actually follow through to where if you were to focus on the word in the first place. So a lot of people would look at what's being referred to, and then they get distracted and lose track of the words first, and then what's being referred to second, and they lose the scope of what they're being taught. But if you focus on the words as though the words were more fundamental than what they're referring to, because actually a lot of what we couldn't have got to the point of creating a school bus that runs and being able to collaborate to get that done, but also to communicate to get that done without words. So you could say that it had actually been the word that came first before what came first, the chicken or the egg? The word, the mechanic, or the school bus? It had actually been the word came first. The word came before the chicken, it became before the chicken and the egg and the mechanic and the school bus. And does a tree make a sound in nature if it falls and no one's there to hear it? Yes, it does, because you could just say a word. There's still the word that can still be argued, but there can still be a word to be said about it, because someone can come later and see that tree, and then they can write about it. That wasn't as clever, but all I meant to say is that words can inform a lot of what we do. And when they say that the word came first, that the word was the first thing, that's way deeper, and I might do another video about that. But so focusing on words is yet another distinction that can make us operate and be able to operate as a professional. But the greater of which, and where I want to go with this, is that to live up to our name, to do what we call ourselves and what we're called to do, what we call ourselves doing and what people call us calling ourselves doing, and do that is what a professional is. I think so to live up to your name, because there's no really being a professional without having a name. You're not getting trained as a professional unless they have looked into your name and there's a certain track record that goes with your name. You're not getting that training otherwise, I don't think, unless it's real life training, because real life can train us. But there's an exception to all things. But so I have this channel, and I've always thought about different names for the channel that sound cool, but a lot of them are just kind of whack, even as I think they're cool. But what would be cooler is a name you can live up to. So I have in here a name about pet theories, loving single with pet theories. So I'm going to offer a pet theory now, and that's going to make me more congruent as a professional, or at least as a YouTuber, is to live up to my name.